Good morning, Bermuda race fans. I'm Dobbs Davis here on Monday, the 23rd of June in the morning. We are now in the fourth day of the 2014 Newport Bermuda race. As you can see on the tracker here, I've scrolled back to about where we were for yesterday's broadcast on Sunday morning. And over the last 24 hours, some interesting things have been happening. Just using our time track here. One thing to notice is how the leaders here, the mini maxis, that yesterday were just starting to break free of the pack to the south, really accelerated. And in fact, the two leaders, Bellamente and Shockwave, are actually very close to the finish line. In fact, they could be finished now. Now, another thing to notice for today's analysis is the fact that we've gone live with the tracker. The 4-hour delay is off. So everything you see here is live as soon as it's updated and reported from the yellow brick trackers on board each boat. So let's look a little bit about what has happened in the last 24 hours. While the leaders have broken free and have found the breeze, most of the pack still remains fairly, I won't say log jammed, but they're not really moving at nearly the same rate that the leaders have. And the reason for that, if we just scroll a little bit far forward, in fact, look at some of these guys. In search of breeze, Spitfire, Bodacious, Rima, these boats, Temptation, really digging very far off to the west in search of wind. Looking at the current, remember that nobody's gone east of Rumline here for fear of getting into that bad limb of the Gulf Stream that everybody wants to avoid, 3 to 4 knots of negative current. Some have gone out into this area and hunting for breeze and thinking maybe they'll get to that forecasted southwesterly first and then the current will bring them back toward the track. But the progress on the boats in this part of the race has not been great. It's been slow going more or less all day long and a lot of last night for the boats. Chris Musler, who's been on board Grundum, if you can look at this on the website, he has a very nice account of what life's like on board and some of the frustrations of light air sailing. So for those wanting to read a first-hand account of that, it's a very good one. It's been up and down, back and forth. Grundum's position in this pack is somewhere in here. That's generally one of the faster boats, but they too have been really struggling with the light air. Just going a little bit forward into later yesterday and into last night. Again, the pack finally starting to move as a uniform band, but if you look in detail amongst those boats, it's been still back and forth, a little bit of hunting around for breeze, and just not a lot of great progress except for our race leaders. So Shockwave and Bellamente and here Kulele, they've been going at 9, 10, 11 knots as they found the breeze. And where is that breeze? If we toggle on the wind data, you can see it here. So green indicates very light winds, so light southwesterlies for most of the pack. And notice up here, actually, northeasterlies. Now, why is that? Let's look over at our weather forecast. So here in the weather, it's this frontal boundary here that's been really bedeviling everyone. It's been very light winds, in fact, a little bit of light northeasterlies in the gradient. And as they cross the frontal boundary, in fact, looking at this is the analysis for early this morning, Monday. As they cross the frontal boundary, then the breeze shifts to the southwest. Looking forward into later today, 1800 UTC, that'll be this afternoon, Eastern Daylight Time. You can see that it really doesn't get a whole lot better. In fact, going forward even more, this system gets even more diffuse. The isobars get spread out further. As I pointed out yesterday, one of the aspects of this particular forecast map is these isobar spacings in the model and the way they're drawn are at 2 rather than 4 millibar levels. So Really, this is very, very weak systems in here. I haven't seen any race reports from the forecast. Some of the forecasts we had said 20 to 30 knots, but it would surprise me if anybody got anything like that. So that's accounting for this shift in the breeze that we see here. Now here the wind arrows in the predict wind grid files are predicting 17 knots of wind there, 12 knots here, 18 knots here. We're not really seeing that in the boat speeds though. So Kulele, for example, is going along at 10 knots. This is a mini maxi, very fast boat. So this boat will go 10 knots and 10 knots of wind on a close reach, no problem at all. So some of these wind predictions here might be a little higher than what the boats are actually seeing. Just behind the front of the pack is Constellation, the U.S. Naval Academy's team on the TP-52. This is the ex-Rio TP-52. They're doing pretty well. Then Kodiak here. This was used to be Bob Tauss's boat, Blue Yankee. It's a Reichel Hughes 66, very well sailed. Lloyd Eccleston and his team. So they've got the breeze too, trucking along at 9.9, 10 knots. Stark Raving Mad is a Swan 601, but you can see they're not that far away from Kodiak, and yet they're only going half the speed. So it's still very light for a lot of the boats in the pack here, and just scrolling around you can see the variations. Some are going 7, some are going 8, some are going 9. So you know, the pack is starting to pick up a little bit of speed, but then they'll go through this transition zone, through the frontal boundary, a little bit of rainfall, to where it then shifts over to the southwest, and some of the low speeds that we see in here might be related to that. Looking at our Gulf Stream, bulk of the pack is right now just clearing the south limb here of that meander, and they're getting into what's generally positive current. That also might be helping in some of the speeds that we're seeing in those GPS results. So if we go to looking at how this looks on the current data, as I said, I think the second day when I showed you all this, I'm not completely convinced this is an accurate representation of what the Gulf Stream current is doing, but it certainly makes for a pretty graphic. As you can see, the pack maybe clearing this limb in this meander, getting some acceleration due to that current. If we believe that, I think again, I think this is mostly diagrammatic. I don't know that it's completely accurate, but it certainly gives you an idea that everybody's staying west of Rumline and trying to stay in positive flow in the current. So just getting back now to latest news. So I believe these boats are finished or very, very close to being finished. I think Shockwave will be the winner here. First to finish. The last I looked in the detail about an hour ago, Bellamente and Shockwave were literally a mile apart. So you can imagine these boats pushing themselves as hard as they possibly can toward the finish line. Distance to finish here is shown as only 1 mile, 0.6 of a mile for Shockwave. So you can bet these guys are fighting really hard. Bellamente is rated the fastest boat in the fleet. So if Shockwave is able to stay that close, I think Shockwave will beat them in corrected time. So these will remain to be seen whether they're able to hold their time allowances for any of the boats back here in the pack. My guess is that they'll do pretty well. This is starting to look like a fast boat race. The prediction of the winds a little bit further ahead in the through tomorrow is not great. These southwesterly breezes are not filling in to the extent that we thought a few days ago. But nonetheless, the pack is starting to make good progress. So as they get through the frontal boundary and get down into these southwesterlies, we should be able to start seeing some accelerated speeds. So that's our report for today, Monday morning, 23rd of June. The tracker is live now, so we invite you to join in and see how your favorite team is doing. The track should become more linear now as the boats get into a little steadier pressure, and everybody starts converging on Bermuda. So for the Newport Bermuda Race 2014 Monday analysis, I'm Dobbs Davis, and we'll see you tomorrow.